Hello, my loves. Welcome back to the Hell Yes podcast. I am so stoked to be talking about today's subject because it feels very on brand. Not only does it feel on brand, but it's exactly what I'm going through currently. And I do a lot of journal prompts. I do a lot of discussions with my life coach, and I am just doing a lot of unlearning and growing and evolving in my current life that this particular episode really is a cathartic one for me and one that embodies everything that I am today. And this episode is about your new life costing you your old one. It's going to have a lot to do with the want and desire to change your life to be the life that you actually want, and why you're going to have to give up parts of your old life and let them go in order to step into this new chapter. And I want to say this before even getting started, that this is a very difficult thing to do. I will say that when you start out, it seems easy because you're like, you know what? I don't want that shit anymore. I want to start over. I want to have a new life. I want to have new money. I want to have a new look. I want to have new friends. I want to have a new man. I want to have a new everything. And it sounds really easy and exciting when you start, but actually having it be the everyday transformation that it is, where you're going through this journey for possibly months, years, and essentially for the rest of your life, it becomes difficult when these thoughts are tested. And the reason why is because all the work that needs to be done in our lives has a lot to do with being uncomfortable. What our old life provides us is comfortability. It's nostalgic. Even though we might not love it and it might not be for us, at least we know what to expect. And our new life has a lot of unexpected twists and turns, a lot of waiting, which essentially means you have to be patient. And it has a lot of negative experiences for the simple fact that you are now having to cut certain people off, level up in a way where you can feel a little bit lonely at times. And it just gives you a new sense of clarity and self-awareness that you didn't have before that can create a whirlwind of emotions. And I kind of want to break this down a little bit more specifically. I watched a TikTok the other day. It was so fun to watch because I love seeing people's takes on movies that I watch and movies that I've been obsessed with for years. And it was from a TikTok creator. I believe her name is Cecilia Regina. I'm obsessed with her TikTok. Please follow her if you can. She is so educated and has such a beautiful way of thinking. And I love people whose minds are just profound and exquisite, essentially. But she had a take on the movie Sweet Home Alabama, which I absolutely love this movie because I am a chick flick kind of girl. I'm a rom-com kind of girl, and I've watched them all. And Sweet Home Alabama has Reese Witherspoon in it, and Josh Lucas, and Patrick Dempsey, and I have the biggest crush on Josh Lucas in this movie. He is just so hot to me. But essentially her take was the breakdown about how Reese Witherspoon's character wanted to reinvent herself to be a fashion designer. She wanted to leave her old life behind in the country and become this elite New York City fashion designer. And at the time she was dating this guy who's Patrick Dempsey's character, who was coming from a really wealthy family, and he does really well. He actually shut down Tiffany's and allowed her to pick out her engagement ring. That is such a beautiful moment in the movie. It was an enviable moment, I will say that. He was just a very powerful, wealthy man, and she wanted to marry him, but she was still married to her high school boyfriend who lived in Alabama, and she had to go down there and serve him divorce papers. And when she went down to Alabama, there was all this nostalgia and all of this, memories that she was experiencing. And because her mother-in-law was giving her, or I should say her future mother-in-law, was giving her so much issue, or she felt like it was providing her with the thought of, oh my God, my new life is going to be so hard. I'm going to have to deal with her judging me and all of this, that her old life in the country felt easy and it provided her with that nostalgia. And she ended up not marrying the guy that she was intended to marry and to stay married to her country husband. And although it was kind of cute, now thinking about it, I realize now that it really just shows that when you're met with difficulty or an obstacle or a roadblock, that you must push through if this is truly the life that you want. What it seemed like was that she did not like her country life. It wasn't what she wanted. She wanted to elevate and reinvent herself. There is a cost to reinventing yourself, and the cost is your past. The cost is your old life. And that doesn't mean that just because your old life isn't what you want, that it's not an easy life to live. A lot of people stay in relationships and in neighborhoods and in systems that provide them comfort even though they don't like it, because they are so afraid of the level up, because leveling up means you have to put the work in. It means you have to do the hard thing. It means you have to leave that person. I went through this in my own life, and I didn't even realize it until recently how much sacrifice I made. Although it was difficult, it was the best thing I could have done for myself. And I'm going to kind of get into my own personal story. I always knew I wanted more for my life, and I've always been a big dreamer. And I've talked about this in so many different episodes and also on my YouTube, so I'm not going to bore you guys with the logistics, but you guys know the kind of girl I am and how I've always strived for an incredible life. And I knew I was meant and made for it because it was my calling. It was my intuitive gut feeling that I knew this is what my life was supposed to be. And I was in a relationship for many years, and you guys know about this, and I'm not going to get too specific here, but the relationship was good. You know, I was comfortable. It was a loving relationship, and it was good enough. And I really did care for this person a lot, and I know they cared for me, and there was no crazy terrible ending. You know, a lot of people think that all relationships end due to cheating or due to lying or abuse or whatever. But in reality, my relationship ended because I no longer wanted to be set back. I needed to truly ascend. And I remember him and I did a little, I guess it was like an exercise, not really an exercise, but we did a journal situation together. And I asked him and I to essentially write down all of the things that we wanted that year, all of the things that we wanted to happen that year for ourselves to have the most beautiful life. And I remember when I wrote down all of the things that I wanted, and then he wrote down all the things that he wanted, what was so sad when we read them back was everything that he wanted included me, which was so sweet and so kind, and I really appreciated that. And everything I wrote down didn't include him at all. I remember kind of looking at it and pausing for a second and saying, oh my God, I did not include you in my life plans. And I didn't even realize I was doing that. It was sad, but also it was a realization that my ascension needed to happen without him there. I genuinely cared for this person and thought that this person was wonderful, but I could not truly become the person that I desired with that person still being my partner. And that was kind of why the relationship ended. Although it was a comfortable, loving, and good relationship, to leave was what needed to happen for me to grow. And by the way, since being single, my life has transformed drastically. I've purchased a home. I have made more money throughout the years. I've started other endeavors. I have met such wonderful people and new friends that are going to be lifelong in my life. I have transformed myself internally, and it was necessary for my growth. And that's how I know it was meant to happen, because I think that when things are meant to happen in our lives, it flows in a way that is indescribable. But had I have stayed due to comfortability, these things would not have happened for me. You need to almost force that discomfort in order to elevate and level up. I needed to abolish my limiting beliefs in order to truly step into this new chapter. And there were so many things that I did not work on in the years prior to now that I'm now working on. There are so many wounds that were present that I didn't even know were there. And although the level up can be career and it can be even your looks, the biggest level up of all is your internal, emotional, and mental level up. And the reason why is because, well, think about Reese Witherspoon's character in Sweet Home Alabama. She leveled up externally. She was being validated by her peers. Look at me. I am no longer that country girl who has nothing to offer. I am a big New York City fashion designer. I'm incredible. Look at what I've done. Look at how I've changed. But she did not do that internal audit because her self-esteem was still an issue. She was still struggling with things inside that were not allowing her to ascend and feel worthy of her new life, which is why her old life felt comfortable, easy, and exciting to her. So things that I've been doing recently is kind of going through the whys and the confusions that I experience in my ascension and in my level up. Just because I am in my new life doesn't mean my new life feels good all the time. And I'm going to kind of break it down more. I decided last year that I was going to be abstinent. And the reason for my abstinence has nothing to do with like spirituality or anything like that. It was simply because I knew I wanted to be married. I knew I wanted to have a long-standing relationship that felt beautiful, respectful, and harmonious. And what could be the only way that I could experience that is if I cut off anything that did not feel like that and did not feel good like that. Having situationships, having casual sex, having very light experiences was not in the cards for me. It didn't feel good to me anymore. And I used to think that I could be someone who can have a casual thing and not grow feelings. But as I got older, that was not the case. So what I do in my shadow work is I do those why questions, and then I answer them in depth with what my heart says. So I'm going to kind of read to you guys some of the why questions and my responses. So the first why question I have is, why haven't I been picked yet? I want to say why I wrote that question down. In my new life, I was hoping that I would have found someone by now. That was at least the plan. I didn't think when I broke up with my ex that 2.5 years later, I would still be single. And although I've dated people casually or dated people in general since then, I've never had a long-standing relationship, obviously, since then. And I want to be married. I want to have children. I want to carry on my life in that way. You get frustrated in your new life when you don't meet people that give you that feeling and give you that promise that you've made to yourself. So that was the question I wrote down. And my response was, well, a lot of picked women that you've seen have less freedom, less autonomy, more self-esteem issues, can't fully be themselves, have to shrink their dreams and passions, and put up with a lot. Now, I am not saying that every person that is in a relationship has that issue. This is what I have seen in a lot of dynamics where I do see someone picked. God knows, and I know, that if I am going to ascend, grow, and elevate into the woman I am supposed to be, that being picked is not what should be at the front of my brain. What should be at the front of my brain is when I am picked, it's by someone who meets my requirements. And to get someone to meet that, it's going to take time. It's going to take patience, and it's going to take self-respect, allowing this moment to come and then go. I have to let go of the obsession, focus on myself, align myself with people and things that feel like love and feel like home to me, so that when I do meet someone, I don't obsess over whether or not this is going to last, whether this connection is true, whether this is going to be my husband, because as a Cancer, I fall in love in, 2 business days, and I have to be a little bit more discerning and choosy with whom I give my heart to. So every time I remind myself of all the work I've done, because I have done work, that doesn't mean that the work I've done doesn't get challenged at times. I am not perfect. And sometimes in my new life, my old life will come knocking and say, hey, look at me. Don't you want this? And it's enticing because it's comfortable. I know that if I go after some clown, the chances of me getting a boyfriend tomorrow are pretty high. But I don't want that anymore because I remember how unhappy I was in those dynamics and how much it didn't help me grow and how much it didn't help me live the life that I was supposed to live. My last relationship was good, but it wasn't what I deserve. It's not what I want. And because of that, your karmic cycle is going to keep repeating itself, not to mock you, but to remind you this is not what you want. So at times we can think that we're being mocked by our past when it keeps coming to us because we're like, why do I keep dating the same clown? Why do I keep sleeping around and getting the same experiences? Why do I keep befriending the same bitch? And the truth is, it's not your karmic past mocking you. It's reminding you that you need to stop making this decision because this decision was already made and you did not like it. It was not good for you and it was not the destiny designed for you. So it's a lesson that keeps being essentially taught to you until you learn it. The next question I had for myself was, why haven't I received success so fast? So this was a question I had for myself many years ago. And it was so frustrating to me because I would see people around me succeeding in things so quickly and having such beautiful lives, getting married at 23, becoming a millionaire at 24, getting their dream car at 25. And it was like, oh my God, here I am, at 20 or 21 at my mom's house, like making like $100 a month, feeling like a complete loser. And so I wrote down, why haven't I received success so fast? And then the response that my heart gave was, well, Haley, it's because fast and quick success would never be something that you would appreciate. You would feel undeserving and weirded out by the success given with such little or minimal effort. Some people can receive blessings that are blindsiding and come from minimal effort and are truly just, blessings that they were given because they just were given them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those people can handle that. Me personally, I need to put the work in. That's my own desire. My desire in life is I need to prove to myself that I am worthy and deserving of those things. Now, I'm not saying that that's a right or correct way of thinking. That's just my way of thinking. So God gives me what it is that I need in order to feel deserving. I know myself. I need to work at what it is that I desire decent enough to where I don't want to lose it. And if I do lose it, it will feel like a loss because I do tend to take advantage of things that come easy. And that is my own personal story. So knowing that about myself means that I have to work hard for the things I have. I have to see what life is like on the other side, on the side of pain, discomfort, and failure. And knowing what failure feels like has allowed me to maintain my success since I was 22. I became successful at 22, and have I experienced some pits throughout that process? Sure, but for the most part, I've remained pretty afloat, and my life continuously blesses me because I know what failure feels like, and I don't like feeling like that. And I don't like being in that position. And everybody's story is going to look different. You might not succeed until 40, 35. You might succeed earlier or later in life. It depends on who you are, and your story is your story. And it is the story that is meant for you, and you need to figure out why that is your story and how you can either fix it or accept it. Another question I wrote down is, why can't I have a situationship in the meantime? And the response was, well, because you fall in love, you develop feelings, and you give so much of yourself to others when you are intimate with them. They will keep you in a perpetual state of yearning for more and not focusing on your destiny and calling. This goes back into how in my new life, I decided I wasn't going to be casually intimate with people, especially people who I viewed were beneath me. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that I believe that there are people who are worse in life than me and I hate these people or anything, but I have done an incredible amount of work and transformation and growing. And how stupid of me to be with people, especially giving my body and my womb to people who are reckless with their lives, who are chaotic, who do not attend to their traumas, who do not want to ascend, who do not want to grow. And there's nothing wrong with these people, but it doesn't make sense for me to be intimate with these people. It does not make sense for me to be giving myself to people who are not aligned with me and who are not on the same path as me. Because every time you have sex with these people, you are reminded of the differences. It's just the way it is. So when I had broken up with my ex of 7 years, and I knew I didn't want to be in a relationship right away, I thought I can, meet people, not be so serious. And listen, I'm grateful that I had those experiences because abstinence is very difficult, but I'm always reminded as to why I push myself to do it. And I want to also say this openly and candidly because I want you guys to know that I am human too. I have broken my abstinence before. And every time I've broken it, I'm not going to sit here and say I bullied myself because I didn't. I have been learning in my new life not to beat myself up for the things that I maybe fall short on. But life humbles you in a way where when you do break something that you know you're supposed to do, you are reminded of why you did it in the first place. And that is how life is for me. When I broke my abstinence, it wasn't like this, oh my God, why did I do that? It wasn't like that, but it reminded me, oh, like the story just keeps being the same chapter when you do something that you've already done that you know doesn't work. You read that chapter, you finish it, let's just say you carry on to the next part of the book and then you go back and do that thing again, you're back in that same chapter that you were in before. Because although it's a different person or a different time, a different season, it's still the same decision that you shouldn't have done. And everybody's life is different. Some people are going to meet their husbands through situationships. I'm not going to sit here and say that every single person that I know that is in a relationship today, that they did it exactly the way that I'm doing it. But that's the difference between my new life and yours. You need to know what your calling is for you. In a lot of my own personal unlearning was realizing that a lot of what is for me is specific to my journey, and that I have to honor that part of myself and honor that fact. Because if I don't, then I'm living a life that isn't for me. Every time I go against my word, instead of beating myself up for it, I am just reminded that my old life really is my old life. It's honestly a cathartic moment. It's a cathartic realization because you're like, wow, I really don't live here anymore. Yes, I revisited. Yes, I came in, but I'm not staying. Breaking abstinence and doing X, Y, and Z and breaking different things that I said I wouldn't. I'm always reminded that this is no longer for me. And it's more so of a confirmation. I met some incredible sweet guy at a bar once, and it was after a very treacherous week. It was a bad week for me. And I went out with my girlfriend and I had no intentions of meeting anyone. And I just met this guy and he was so handsome and so sexy. And we had such sexy chemistry. And I'm going to be honest with you. Every part of me wanted to fuck him. Oh my God. My body was like fucking pulling towards him. I wanted to fuck him so bad. But guess what? I had my period and I had it so heavy. And I go, I see what you're doing, God. I knew it. Like, it felt so on brand for my own life because I'm like, any time that something is not for me, I'm always met with such rejection from life or from a person. Like, it's just so funny to me. And I'm happy that that was the case because I ended up obviously not sleeping with that person and not going back into that part of my life. And I'm human. I'm a woman. I have needs. I want to have sex. Trust me, like, it's not easy. But I do know that in my new life, I need that emotional connection. I need that emotional security. I need that love and that adoration, that respect, and that getting to know someone before that happens, because that's what makes sex good for me. That's what makes intimacy special for me. And I also love sex so much that I gotta have it all the time with you. And having a situationship, you're kind of on their beck and call and you barely see them and they're barely answering. And no, like, if I'm sleeping with my man, I'm sleeping with my man. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that once you find someone who's on that type of time with you. And I know that what that type of time is for me is a relationship, is my future husband. So that's what my new life has said to me. I think something that is so important to note is we can be compassionate and loving with our old life. There are so many things that you guys are going to be leaving behind, right? Whether it's friendships, certain familial ties, certain careers or success or lack thereof. Listen, there's people who were lazy their whole life and now have to ascend to a more successful version. But there's also people who worked really successful corporate jobs or whatever that are leaving that to pursue passion because they are not happy. Whatever it is that you're leaving behind in your old life that is no longer for you, I am so proud of you. Just know you have other people on your side and who understand you. It is a very rocky uphill battle, but there's so much beauty at the top of the mountain because you're going to see all the progress you've made. You are finally you. And I love the quote of like, there is two lives that we have. We have two different lives. And the second one begins when we realize that we only have one. And it's important that we live for ourselves and we are authentic and we are doing what it is that we are meant to do and that we don't bury ourselves in comfort. I think it's so important that we pursue sometimes things that feel scary because we know that on the other side of fear is something beautiful. And I have done that so much throughout my life and it's never let me down. Anytime that something was ever meant for you, you got it. You're just not going to get it in the time that you want it because there is so much more to be done. There's so much ascension to be had. There's so much peace to be made. And as time goes on, I'm realizing, last year I wasn't ready to meet my husband. I am now seeing that now in my current self. I didn't realize it then, but now, because I've grown so much even since then, I'm seeing, girl, you weren't ready. You weren't going to accept it the way that you should have. You wouldn't have known what to look for. You wouldn't have fully been able to be your authentic self in that dynamic. And there was so much unlearning you still had to do, and there still is. And I'm not sitting here saying that we have to be our most perfect selves when we meet a person or when we get the job or when we become mothers. But what I'm saying is everybody has a timeline that is best suited for them. Some people grow the most after certain things and some people need to grow before. It really just depends on who you are, and you know what it is based off of your intuition, based off of your calling, based off of your life experiences, based off of the proof that you have. And I also think what's important is having integrity, choosing courage over comfort, choosing what is right over what is fun, what is fast or easy. Impatience is a luxury for those who settle for mediocrity. Patience is the no-nonsense mindset that separates the achievers from the average. I challenge you guys to think that through, think that quote through whenever you are trying to rush and skip to the good part. Your new life is going to take time, patience, effort, integrity, working on your self-esteem, letting go of certain people, places, and things, saying no, creating boundaries, and sometimes even making mistakes and learning from them. That is what your new life is going to be. And your old life, although it is comfortable, it is fast, and it is easy, it is not who you are anymore, and you don't live there anymore. I hope that this helped you guys. It even helped me to talk about. I hope that even my stories and my vulnerabilities can shed light on not being so hard on yourself in this journey. You are going to sometimes go back and do what it is your old life is trying to get you to do again. But as long as you come back to center and come back to your calling, you are going to be okay. And I promise you, eventually, you're not going to go back there again because you remember and are reminded that there's nothing for you there and that you can give it the compassion and love, like, thank you for carrying me through this time and that time in my life, but I don't need you anymore. I hope that this episode helped you guys. I love you guys so much, and I will speak to you guys next Tuesday.